Prime Minister Mark Carney unveiled new financial aid for Canadian softwood lumber. It's among the industries hardest hit in President Donald Trump's trade war. Last month, Trump nearly tripled U.S. duties on Canadian softwood to more than 20%. Carney is responding with more than $1 billion in loans and grants.
The forest industry is a pillar of the Canadian economy. It supports 200,000 jobs across the country, contributes more than $20 billion directly to our GDP. It's the economic backbone of nearly 300 rural, Indigenous and northern communities, many of them right here in British Columbia.
Joining us now with reaction is BC's Forests Minister Ravi Parmar. Minister, thank you for joining us. I want to get your initial reaction. What do you think of what the Prime Minister announced today?
Yeah, afternoon, Katie. Thanks very much for having me on. I would say at the outset, this is really good news. We have been calling on the federal government for the last number of months to ensure that it is standing strong with British Columbians and forestry workers from coast to coast to coast as they deal with these unjustified softwood lumber duties. Like you said, not only are the softwood lumber duties what we're contending with here in British Columbia and throughout the country, but it's also the countervailing duties that are set to go up very soon, this ludicrous Section 232 investigation, and so we could be dealing with duties and tariffs combined well over 35%. We hope that there's a long-term softwood lumber deal, but in the interim, the support is widely needed.
Is there anything else that you would have liked to have heard today from the Prime Minister on this issue?
Well, I'm looking forward to getting into the details. As you know, Katie, British Columbia is the forestry capital of the world. In my perspective, we are the second largest exporter of softwood lumber in the entire world, second to Russia. And so this is a big deal for us. It's foundational, just like the auto sector is a big deal for Ontario. Forestry is a big deal for British Columbia. And so I'm going to be looking forward to working with my colleague, Tim Hodson, on ensuring that British Columbia gets its fair share of those dollars, in particular that capital funding that I hope will be able to help transform this sector, as the Prime Minister talked about, not only providing more lumber domestically, but also looking at those international partnerships that we need to develop further.
You just made that comparison there to Ontario's auto industry. A complaint that has come up time and time again is that perhaps the federal government is not treating the forest industry or the lumber industry the same way it is treating, say, big industries like the auto industry in Ontario. Is that a concern in this moment to you? And did anything that was announced today alleviate that concern, if it is your concern?
Well, I would say in my last 9 months in this role, much of that under the tenure of Prime Minister Trudeau, it has not been a priority of the federal government. I had my first conversation with Minister Hodson weeks within him becoming the federal minister responsible for natural resources, and I saw a big shift of focus. He's got a parliamentary secretary that's dedicated to this file. The Premier has been having direct conversations with the Prime Minister, and so I would say from the previous Liberal administration to this one, it's a night and day comparison. I really appreciate the Prime Minister showing very strong leadership on ensuring that we can get a long-term softwood lumber deal, but in the interim, providing liquidity supports, providing diversification supports. Some of these supports that they're talking about to agencies like Canada Wood were actually cut 2 years ago, Katie. To see those reinstated and to certainly hear more about that is welcome news for British Columbians.
Part of the Canada-U.S. strategy coming from the federal government is trying to diversify markets. But I'm curious, can the BC softwood lumber industry, can it survive if it doesn't have access to, the United States?
Well, I think it's important for us to recognize that we're always going to be trading partners with the United States. And I think Americans are going to be finding out very shortly the impact that these duties are going to be having on them. I want to give you a couple of examples, Katie. I was chatting with a senator last week who was visiting beautiful British Columbia from California, Senator Ben Wallen. He represents the Palisades, which is the area most hard hit by fires in the fires earlier this year in California, talking to him about the fact that people in his own community can't rebuild their homes because of issues with permitting, but also costs. We need to recognize, as much as these duties and tariffs hurt us here in British Columbia, hurt Canadian workers, these also hurt Americans, those who are simply just trying to build new homes or rebuild homes after wildfires and hurricanes. And so I'm hopeful as we deal with the aftermath of these increased duties that we can get to the table and address this issue once and for all. Donald Trump has to recognize that these duties and tariffs are having an impact on consumers. And again, it's quite rich for a guy who ran to be a person who is building more housing. He's actually going to stall his economy, and that is going to have an impact on British Columbians and Canadians as well.
So much of what we've heard from U.S. President Donald Trump, when experts raise concerns about how tariffs are going to increase prices, it's going to make things like building new homes more expensive. That hasn't deterred U.S. President Donald Trump. I'm curious, from your perspective, from your role as a provincial minister, what is it like to continually hear that and know that you're up against sort of an attitude that no matter what the facts are presented and what the facts are, it's not really leading to any sort of change?
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's mind-boggling that you're dealing with a U.S. federal administration, Donald Trump's administration, that is not talking about facts. As you've seen in Washington, Katie, the president likes to say repeatedly that we don't need their trees, we don't need their lumber. 30% of our lumber leaves British Columbia, or in fact leaves Canada and heads down south. It's about 70% of our wood products that head down south. And we do so because Americans rely on Canadian lumber. And we are certainly concerned about the actions that the Trump administration is taking to slow down its economy, because that's having an impact on us. But again, as Prime Minister Carney put it very eloquently this morning, we have to diversify. We have to go and find those new trading relationships. We opened a new office in Vietnam. I'm going to be launching a trade mission to Japan in the next number of months, and we're going to be looking to find those new partners. And I think the U.S. administration is going to be taking a number of steps, I hope, to be able to secure a deal. But if they don't, I think they're going to be paying the price for higher lumber costs in the years ahead.
The last thing I want to ask you, we have less than a minute left here now, but when we talk about this industry, what we're really talking about is people, their jobs, and their livelihoods and their families. That really is what this is about. What are you hearing from people in the industry as they try to navigate all this uncertainty?
They're concerned. I'm talking to people every single day who are not sure if they're going to be having the same level of job security that their parents once had. My message to British Columbian workers, but in particular to forestry workers, again, from coast to coast to coast, is I'm hopeful over the course of the next number of weeks we can get to a long-term softwood lumber deal. British Columbia will be a strong partner, but know this, Premier Eby, our government, will be focused on protecting your paychecks and ensuring that we can continue to provide the world with the best softwood lumber materials this world has to offer.
Minister, thank you very much for your time today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Katie.